Hello, Upwork Skelly here with another project that I, well, kind of finished. I wasn't able to finish everything based off of a little bit of confusion with a few of the requirements, but it is ready to show. So I wanted to show what I've done so far. This is based off of a dynamic fire servicing costing spreadsheet, and so they just wanted to do a couple of things to kind of freshen it up as well as fix a couple of the calculations. And they give you the spreadsheet down here to start with, and I already have it opened up here. So this is what I started with, where they have inspections that happen on the different sections of each month, and then they have the cost of each thing, and then the total cost of everything, and several other things. And what this turned into was this. There was a lot that I had to do in order to fix this. So I'm just going to run through a couple of different things just using the requirements. So one of the things that they wanted to do was make kind of a drop down type of thing for the requirements, as well as do hours required. So what I did in order to do that was I made it here so that you can choose the different parts of like the different frequency that you want to do, and it is color formatted. They didn't ask for that, but it makes it easier to see so that you can keep track of that. I also added an hours required as well as a type column. This one is directly related to the metadata that they had in the original file, where they had this pump pricing here. I was able to consolidate both of these into this metadata table, which is just a full table of all of the things that they use. They also said that they wanted to have different wages depending on the apprentice or the technician. That is here. So now I have two different versions of it. Another one was they wanted to do a drop down for the appropriate rate for each service. I didn't do a drop down. I did something a little bit different. So here, I just made an apprentice needed column so that you can just say if it's true or false. And depending on which one that you do, like let's say I want to do, I don't know, quarterly. Let's see, there we go. So depending on whether or not it was apprentice needed or not, the price rate would change. So I basically baked in the apprentice and hourly rate into the formula, and then all you had to do is just choose whichever one that you wanted. So that's that. The next thing is cost for annual flow test to ensure to change if it has both hydrants and pumps. So what I noticed on the original table is that they had this little helpful little doohickey here that lets me know how much it was supposed to be. Once again, I baked that into the formulas. So here it does like a crazy formula. This thing is long. It's like super long, but I baked it in there in order to make it easier for me to do everything. So let's say I wanted to do an inspection test. Let's see. I don't know how many hours it would require. I'm just going to say like 7 hours. It is true, and I'll do it on an annual basis. Now, currently, I don't have anything set up yet, but let's say I have a pump of a particular type. This actually references the table on the metadata to set that up. Make this active, and then set this to a monthly thing, and let's make it annual. Okay, then what you'll notice is that the inspection rate doesn't change. And then I'm going to set this up as well for annual thing. Once again, price doesn't change. But if I decide to add a hydrant to it, once again, notice that it doesn't change until I go through the whole rigmarole of making it active, and then the price changes. And then here I set it to annually, and there you go. I also made sure to add the total and the hours here as well, which ticks off a couple of extra checkboxes. cost for emergency lighting as well as the number, based off the number of fittings. This was a little confusing because I don't know exactly how many fittings per lighting there are, but once again I baked that into the calculations for emergency exit lights. It should be right around here where it has like this extra stuff in there. I also did some high cost services. So as you can see, these are actually changing color. If I decide to make it something astronomical, it gets worse and worse. That pretty much solves the basic requirements. What I decided to do for extra was I made it so that you can reset the entire thing if you had to change something. So let's say you had to come in here and you see this lovely little really expensive looking formula and you say, you know what, I'm actually going to change the cost manually for electric pumps and I'm going to set it to $100. So now the formula is gone, but no need to worry. I have created a couple of macros here, 3 of them in fact. One is save as template that takes whatever that you have on the invoice and saves it to a template. So if you decided to muck about with everything on here and change everything, you can save that as your future template and you don't have to worry about having to redo it each time you open it. Be very careful because once you change it, it's changed. You can't redo it. And then I had 2 more for resetting. Fix regions. This allows me to choose different sections of the table to change. So right now I have this set as fixed regions. I can run it. It asks me, have I selected the areas I want to reset? Yes, I have. And then it puts the formula back. Now, this only works if you already have a template made. If you don't have one made, it's not going to do anything. Let's say I wanted to do it for several things. I can use that exact same macro and it'll put everything back. Or maybe I mucked about with the whole business. Oops. I can go back in here and do reset all. And it says as if I've already made the template, as I have. And then if I'm on the invoice tab, which I am, and it puts it all back. So you can't lose any data so long as the template is already there. Now, let me cover a couple of things that I was not able to do. In terms of pricing, on the original one, you do have pricing for tenders. I wasn't able to do batteries, but I was able to do fire blanket and extinguisher replacement. The way I covered those was on fire blanket, I made drop-down menus once again, so it changes it based off of that. In addition to that, I also made these calculate the 30% markup. I extrapolated the labor time based off of what the total was, because what you had on the right side, if you look at the original, you had your rates here. I don't know why you set it at $60 every 30 minutes, maybe because you only do it in range of 30 minutes, but I did it for an hour for everything, made everything easier, because it's the same frame, it's the same rate anyway. But it allowed me to find out how many hours everything was. And then I added that extra labor time to everything, which made it easier for me to transfer it over to the invoice. One of the most interesting ones that I found was that for the extinguisher, I remember you were charging $147,032 and then $164,050. Those must be expensive extinguishers, but I fixed that. And while we're on the point of changing calculations, bless your heart, you were using sums wrong the entire time. I think only one was actually used properly, was the total, because it was summing up multiple columns, but for the rest of them, you were only summing one thing at any particular moment. That's not how you use it. So I cleaned up those calculations and made it more appropriate, basically, on how you should use those things. The next thing, the thing that threw me for a good little while, is this table. If you notice on my invoice, it's not there anymore. The reason why is because I turned it into a lookup table on your metadata. That's what this is. And these are color formatted so that if you decide to add more data, you can. And it'd be nice if you did, because I really don't understand what this table's about. Right now, it looks like your passive fire audits are basically free, except for like annual audits, which is cool, I guess. Your business, not mine. But then at the same time, you also have a section 12 audit and then a regular audit, and they work differently. And I'm not sure how to handle that. I'm not sure why you have two different audits of the same name. So that's most likely is broken because it's going to reference the nearest audit, which comes with an annual cost. But aside from that, this should work. I'm not sure why you have two though. But that did help me understand how you were doing these, because a lot of the times you were referencing blank columns, and I guess that means you just didn't want to have a quarterly cost or anything. But then at the same time, I looked at your original file and you had people doing monthly, biannually, and annual inspections, which was confusing to me, because if you're doing monthly, you're already doing annual. And if you're doing biannual, you're already doing annual. So you never need to do more than one of these things unless you're just showing up there to inspect it twice on the same day. I don't know. So that was one thing I got rid of. Here, I left these alone, but I'm not entirely sure if they're not supposed to be there, if they're supposed to be there, or whatever else. Other problem was, for these, I remember in one of the requirements that you wanted to base everything off of, in the requirements, they wanted to base everything off of work rate. But you couldn't do it on this one. Because I couldn't figure out which rate they were using, if it was apprentice rate or if it was tech rate. And so because of that, I wasn't able to figure out the hours for anything or the rates for anything. And there was another issue. Here, it seems like all of the prices are set by cost and then labor. There's two separate things. And so I thought maybe that for this, it's cost and labor. Like all of these are flat rates, and then you add the labor onto it. But what was weird about it was that your annual cost is astronomically high while your monthly cost is very, very low. The only thing I could think of for that is that there should be, like, you're doing a discount thing. Because that was one other thing I noticed on this calculation. You have on this one where you multiply by 10, which leads me to believe that you buy 10 months and you get 2 free. And then for biannual, you had, quarterly, you had times 2, which means you buy 2 months, get 2 free. So I figure, okay, well, they're doing some sort of discount thing, but if that's the case, why is it only times 8 and not times 10? So I don't know. I really don't know. So because of that, I couldn't do the times, I couldn't do any flat rates, or I couldn't do any of the wage type stuff using these numbers. So what I did instead was, these are flat rates, and then I add the wage onto it, cost plus labor, basically. And then the labor is based off of whether or not you chose an apprentice or didn't choose an apprentice. Then there was another one in there where you were talking about expired contracts. I don't know what that is. The other one was for metrics, because it looks like you wanted to have another thing for metrics. Couldn't find anything. So that is the project. If you would like something like this, you can contact me on Upwork Skelly on YouTube, or you can contact me as Sage K on Upwork. All right, bye.